you say there's a lot of places. There's a lot of places available. Okay, so it's up to them to figure out their, you gotta get the mother and father involved in the financing, that's all.
Can you guys hear me?
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and I'll call on Councillor D'Angela to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. I propose that the agenda be amended by moving agenda item 13.1, being report CLK 6/2026, to be presented immediately after agenda item 9.1, being a presentation from New Vote Systems. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as amended? Councillor Longo and Councillor DeRose. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adoption of the minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the following minutes? The open and closed minutes of the special council meeting held on Tuesday, June 16th, 2026. The minutes of the council meeting held on June 23rd, 2026, and the minutes of the special council meeting held on Monday, June 29th, 2026. Councillor D'Angela and Councillor O'Hara, will you second that? Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's report. On June 24th, I was joined by Councillors Decker, O'Hare, Hanley, D'Angela, and Didavitis at the Thorold Community Market and BIA Car Show to present the Thorold Reed Band with a certificate in recognition of their 175th anniversary. Formed in 1851, the Thorold Reed Band is Canada's oldest continuously running reed band. Current conductor John Pereira accepted the certificate on behalf of the band. Congratulations on reaching this amazing milestone. On July 25th, Deputy Mayor Hanley represented City Council at Thorold Fire and Emergency Services 2026 Volunteer Firefighter Recruitment Graduation Ceremony held at Fire Station 2. Also in attendance were CAO Manoj Dewaria, Fire Chief Terry Dixon, Deputy Fire Chief Mike DeGasperis, Captain of Training Joe Veldman, along with Thorold Fire and Emergency Services staff and recruit family members. 9 recruits graduated. They were Andrew Runians, Nathaniel Adino, Spencer Kreitz, Jess Joseph DeSouza, Jaron Potroff, Joshua Ferretti, Joshua Dardis, Daniel Brady, and Mike DeLuca. Spencer Kreitz was the recipient of the Ted Lucas Award. Congratulations to all our 2026 graduates, and best wishes as you begin your careers serving the residents of the city of Thorold. Also on July 25th, Councillors O'Hara and D'Angela presented the Rodman Art Institute of Niagara with a certificate in recognition of the opening of their 2 new pop-up exhibitions at former Fire Station 1 on Topaz Street in our downtown. They were joined by Councillors Sentence, Decker, and BIA Chair Serge Carpino. On our 3-day Canada Day celebration, June 29th, 30th, and July 1st, was very successful despite heat and rain. All of our scheduled activities, live music, vendors, food and beverage service went off as planned, including the fireworks. The only exception was a Simply Queen tribute show, which had to be canceled after only 2 songs due to the storm that passed through the area. A heartfelt thank you to all our incredible sponsors and residents for your continued support. It's great to see the community come together and celebrate. A special thank you to city staff, city council, the Special Events Working Group, and volunteers for their dedication and efforts in making this three-day celebration so special. On July 6th, I was joined by Councillors Decker, O'Hare, Didavitis, DeAngela, and Regional Councillor Whalen as we presented a certificate in recognition of Impact Health Niagara as they celebrated their 10-year anniversary. Congratulations to owner Daniela Di Paula and her team on reaching this milestone. Located at 206 Richmond Street, in Thorold, this beautiful facility is a full-service business offering chiropractic services, physiotherapy, massage therapy, and naturopathic medicine. All the best moving forward. The significant weather event. On behalf of City Council, I would like to sincerely thank City staff, particularly Public Works and Community Services, Thorold Fire and Emergency Services. There was some work from the Niagara region, Thorold Bylaw, Hydro One, and all emergency responders for their quick response following the severe storm that impacted major parts of our community. Your dedication and hard work in clearing fallen trees and branches, reopening roads, and restoring power and communication utilities are truly appreciated. I would also like to thank our residents for their patience, understanding, and cooperation during the recovery efforts and cleanup. Together, once again, we demonstrated the strength and resilience of the City of Thorold community. Congratulations to all high school graduates from Pope Francis Catholic Secondary School, Thorold Secondary School, and Dennis Morris Catholic High School. We would also like to extend sincere special congratulations to the recipients of this year's City of Thorold Graduation Awards at Thorold Secondary School. The Thorold City Council Recognition Award went to Jel Durav, and the City of Thorold Mayor's Award went to Nevre McDonald. Once again, congratulations to all graduates, and we wish you continued success in your future endeavors. The Super Soccer School is back for its 37th year, and I believe it's the longest running school in the city. Is that correct, Councillor Duro? And it ran Monday, Tuesday, and again tomorrow from 9 to 12 at CE Gross Park in Thorold. This program designed for boys and girls aged 6 to 13, and lead instructor Carmen DeRose is joined by an experienced staff team of instructors. Tomorrow evening, July 15th, the Thorold Community Market and BIA Car Show will be hosting Material Girls, the ultimate tribute experience. Madonna, Shania Twain, Cher, Lady Gaga, Adele, Pink, Heart, and more. Gates, Market, and Car Show open at 5. Material Girls performance begins at 6:30 and runs to 8:30. It all takes place downtown in the Battle of Beaver Dams Park, and admission is free. We had great news announced yesterday. A new Thorold Catholic Elementary High School was announced yesterday. $28.1 million in provincial funding, 565 new elementary student spaces, 49 new licensed childcare spaces, and the location will be announced by the school board very shortly. In closing, we extend our heartfelt condolences, thoughts, and prayers to the family and friends of Jerry Panuto, who passed away on June 26th in his 64th year. Jerry proudly served the City of Thorold for 36 years before retiring in 2020. During his career, he worked as a Zamboni operator at the Thorold Arenas and later as a heavy equipment operator, earning the respect of his colleagues through his dedication and commitment to the community. Jerry's many years of service and contributions to the city will be remembered with gratitude. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. Up next, we have a presentation, New Vote Systems Incorporated, vendor of record for the 2026 Municipal School Board election. And I'll call on Laura Garrett, CTO, and Matthew Human, founder and CEO of New Vote Systems, for their presentation. Are they online or are they in the... Yep. Okay, we'll get that set up.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Just give me 1 second.
I see Laura. I don't
everyone.
see Matthew on the screen, though.
Just give me 1 second more. Hey, everybody, can you see me now?
Yes, I can, Matthew. And
Hi.
I don't see Laura now, though.
I think she's sharing her screen, if everyone can
Oh,
see
there
that as
she
well.
is. Okay.
Yes, you know what? It automatically turned off my video when I started sharing my screen. Apologies.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to you and for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Just want to start off by saying thank you so much for the opportunity to work with Thorold. It's a sincere privilege, and we're really excited to be presenting and being a supporting vendor for your election. We're an Ontario-based company. We were founded in Kitchener, Ontario in 2017. We now operate all over Canada, with a few provinces, as well as a large number of municipalities for the 2026 municipal election. Pretty much all of our current staff are located here primarily in the GTA area, with a few people just outside of that. This is a very Ontario-specific technology that we've created to basically address the online voting and alternative voting methods under the MEA. What we're going to be doing is just going through a quick demo of the solution, as well as answer some questions. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Laura to kind of walk through the system, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A right after.
Thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
Here is the login page for the voter portal. You would enter your voter PIN as printed on your voter information letter. The input is set to be really user-friendly, automatically adding spaces and only accepting digit characters. Then you select your date of birth from this drop-down to validate your information and click Login. When you log in, you see the details of your upcoming election. If you have not voted yet, it of course says you have not voted yet, and it says how long voting will be open. When I click Vote Now, it takes me right to my ballot. Here you have a customized eligibility statement based on the municipality, and you can confirm the statement to continue on to the ballot, or there's an option to decline the ballot. If you continue, you'll go through each of the offices: mayor, regional councillor, ward councillor, school board trustee. You have an option to make a selection, and there's user-friendly options to clear the selections or continue. If you don't make a selection, there's a warning to let you know that you can continue with a blank vote, but you can also go back and make a selection. For offices where you can select multiple, it's very simple to select multiple. If you try to select more, there's a warning. And here we have a ward councillor and a school support trustee. This one I'll leave blank. And then you can see the review page where it summarizes your selections for each office. And if you have left one blank, it notifies you, so you have the option to go back and change or cast your ballot as is. If you cast your ballot, it takes you to a screen that says your ballot has been successfully cast. If you would like voters to complete a survey after the election, there's a link to finish and share feedback. And then there's this tracking code, which is like an order confirmation for a digitally cast ballot. And you can just track it to see your sign-in activity and that your ballot was successfully cast as an extra verification method. And that's the online voting process. Are there any questions about this demonstration?
Yes, Councillor O'Hare, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Laura. Laura, you mentioned that voters need a voter eligibility letter. If that hasn't arrived, is there a secondary means to obtain a PIN in order for a resident to vote online?
Yes. Your election staff, depending on the permissions you give them, can reprint a voter information letter in office at any time. Also, if you have the voter's email, you can email them a copy, a digital copy of a voter information letter with PIN. Not the official voter information letter, but a digitalized version.
Right. Okay, thank you. And one more question. Is this going to function on laptops, tablets, desktops, phones?
Yes, the whole application is completely mobile responsive, as well as tested for accessibility services such as screen readers and other technology.
All right. Thank you very much.
Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. So basically, encryption protects votes after they're cast, but it does not determine whether the person casting the vote is legally entitled to vote. Can you explain step by step how your system verifies A, Canadian citizenship, residency, age, and municipal voting eligibility before a ballot is issued or a ballot is recorded?
I can assist with that one.
Go ahead.
So typically the eligibility criteria is determined actually by the preliminary electors list, which is provided to the town and then conversely to us, as well as DataFix if you're using them via the PLE. So the PLE has the preliminary list of electors, and that basically determines a set of different metadata such as birthday, name, address. The PLE actually includes quite a bit more: school board, association, as well as elector ID and some other information more pertinent to the actual elector itself. We only use a subset of that data to basically determine the criteria. And we basically follow the exact same principles under the MEA that you would for any other election, whether it's in person or online or vote by mail or anything, which is essentially we rely on the PLE to determine the source of truth of who this elector is. If it is a net new registration as a new elector, just like you would in person, we would ask them, or your office would be asking them, to submit some sort of verifying documentation under the MEA, which includes driver's license, passport, health card. I think we even go as far as bank statements or other information that can be provided to determine who the elector is and their eligibility to vote in the municipal election. So we basically just take that. So online, it is a remote aspect, but we are sort of leaning on existing methods of verification for the voters, such as which again is where the office is determining eligibility by some prerequisite information based on the PLE. And then we're simply providing the voter an opportunity to provide some corroborating information, such as their birthday, name. We can enhance it with other information if required, or second factor authentication if necessary. But it's really up to the election office of the town of Thorold to determine what that criteria is going to be.
Thank you, Matthew. Just one more question through you, Mayor. So if something that's fraudulent doesn't get caught at that stage, once it gets to you, it's not going to get caught. Is that correct?
What do you mean by fraudulent, though?
Let's say the city made an error and someone moves new to town, someone leaves town and still gets a voting card. Are you able to pick up any discrepancies such as that?
We do have duplication detection on the system. Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the town using DataFix as the VM?
I would have to double check, but we wouldn't be doing cross municipality comparisons of your voters. We wouldn't have even if we work with multiple municipalities, due to privacy laws, we can't compare to see if there's the same elector, exact same information in a different municipality. So that would have to be verified by the city ahead of time. For malicious actors, like those acting from a different country and trying to spam the system with attacks to log in, we can catch things like that, suspicious online activity. But for something where a voter was eligible and they've moved out of the city, we don't have access to the data that would allow to check for that.
And I think the other answer is when you talk about fraudulent activity or malicious actors, this method of attack, so to speak, would be the exact same as if a voter received a card to vote in person, like forget about any remote access, just regular voting in a location. And they had that card, walked into a polling center and casted a vote, even though they may have moved recently or something. If they still have access to that voter information card, whether it be in person, online, or vote by mail, any of those modalities would be vulnerable to a fraudulent attack with someone using existing credentials that were sent over to them. This actually is more of a highlight, Councillor, that you actually highlighted a really interesting aspect of elections in general, which is the voter information letter itself is not exactly the best way to determine a voter's eligibility. Unfortunately, every election at all levels, including federal, use this as a method to determine eligibility for voters. But in the sort of the literature when it comes to election security, letters are actually not the best way, but right now it's kind of the best we have, so to speak.
So can you say you're not 100% fail-proof?
I don't think anything is 100% fail-proof. It would just, it's more or less a mitigation strategy. And this is pretty much the exact same across any service that exists. There's no such thing as 100% fail-proof service out there. You know, the CRA gets hacked sometimes. Banks are vulnerable. Healthcare systems get breached sometimes. The best we can do is create the strongest apparatus to secure the system as possible. And I will say this, like NuVote is a leading vendor in the space. You know, we are an ISO 27001 certified company. We regularly conduct internal audits and external audits against the system, including 2 that are running right now for the system for municipalities in Ontario. I think we were audited 4 times in the last year, in the last 12 months. And we employ the highest grade level of security as well as verification for the system. So, you know, we operate at an international level. We've worked with states outside of Canada before where the threshold for security is much, much, much higher than a municipality. But again, to answer your question succinctly, there is no such thing as a 100% fail-proof system, but we have employed probably the strongest methods of security and verification that you can have for a system like this.
Thank you, Matthew, for the detailed answer.
No
Mr.
problem.
Mayor, I just wanted to make a statement at the end.
No, you can make a statement when the report comes on the floor.
All right, I'm just saying this is
We're
why.
just here to ask questions, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Go ahead, questions only. Go ahead, Councillor Dan.
Thank you. I have a couple questions, but they're for the report, so I'll save those. Just in terms of the voters list, is that Elections Ontario that's producing that list?
That's correct, Councillor. So historically, MPAC was the driving force for the electors list, and that was corroborated from data from Elections Canada, Elections Ontario. I think a few years ago, pardon me, when Toronto was redistricted during the election, it began sort of the catalyst for Elections Ontario to actually start maintaining the list. So essentially, Elections Ontario corroborates all the information, provides a list that's available exclusively to municipal actors, meaning we don't have access to this list. We have to request it from either the city or under permission, we can get it from Elections Ontario ourselves. But essentially, it sucks up all the information from Elections Canada, Elections Ontario, as well as MPAC itself for School Board Association, and then basically consolidates that in a list that is provided to the cities at their discretion.
Okay, just a secondary question to that is, I know you talked about the preliminary list of electors. And I know in the report it talks about the letters going out in September. When's like the final cutoff date to get yourself onto the voters list that would be eligible for online voting? Because after a certain point in time, you would only be able to go vote a
That'll be
location?
answered. You can ask that on the report.
Report? Okay,
Okay.
thanks. That was my two questions right now. Thank you.
Anyone else that has questions to the presenter? Go ahead, Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter, just out of curiosity, I believe there's 444 municipalities in Ontario. Would you know how many use online voting at this time?
Based on the last number, so I can't answer for 2026 because typically the report is issued post-election. But based on the last numbers off the top of my head, Councillor, we're looking at 60 to 75% of cities are using online voting to some degree at this point. So I think it's north of 300, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's a substantive amount of municipalities.
Right. And your company is one of how many that would provide this service?
Again, right, we don't really have a breakdown of the market as it exists right now, but realistically, there's like 4, maybe 5 companies globally that actually provide the service.
Okay. And can you share how many in Ontario your company deals with?
Off the top of my head, I believe we're managing, Laura, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 50 or 60 of the cities.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Councillor Dedivitis, go ahead.
Thank you. Do you have any problems that usually occur on online voting? This sounds like it's always pretty well bulletproof.
Well, like I'm not here. I'll be frank with with the audience here. We're not. There's no such thing as bulletproof, and what we do and this technology is very, very cutting edge, right? We employ a method of encryption called end-to-end verifiability, which is a dual encryption method, meaning that it preserves voter anonymity and secrecy while also basically encrypting the votes on the client side, meaning all the information is happening on a user's device so that we don't actually see what the vote is being encrypted. So there is a gargantuan amount of literature and reports and audit reports, et cetera, that we could kind of dive into to kind of describe how this technology works. But this technology is not something that, we just created in the last few years. In fact, the company was incorporated in 2017, and we didn't start actually deploying this technology until 2021. There was years of ramp up time to develop this, get it tested, and get it ready for prime time before we would ever deploy it in a single election. Since then, it's been deployed quite a bit, and there's also a body of literature called the DGSI standards, which was designed specifically for Ontario municipalities to basically adhere to a set of prerequisites and best practices, so to speak, that we were a founding member of and we are completely compliant with. That standards work highlights some of the technology and sort of the security around the service and technology that we're using. And we again are a strong believer in regulatory considerations for this. We would actually prefer, this is a voluntary standard that municipalities can employ and force vendors to adhere to based on their own voluntary considerations. But we actually would, moving forward, be super happy with a regulatory agency such as EO or some other body within the government to actually regulate and vet this technology to the highest level so that we, basically create a vendor of record at the highest level to make sure that there's a good understanding of what this technology is and how it's being used, and that the companies that are actually proposing this technology are utilizing and fully compliant with whatever the best practices and highest grade security measures are.
And what's your general response from the survey? Is there a lot of people doing the survey at the end?
It's a hit and miss. It really depends on the municipality. Like I'll highlight Markham because they're historically one of the the progenitors of online voting, at least in North America. I think because of the way that the municipality has used online voting multiple times for around almost 20 years now, their voters are just much more familiar with it and happy to take part in the surveys. Other municipalities who maybe, maybe it's their first time, or maybe they just have, let's be real, more of an apathetic audience. They may not have a high degree of turnout. The thing about the survey at the end is we provide a link to it, but we don't actually manage it. It's managed by an independent academic, Dr. Nicole Goodman. So you'd have to refer to her for the actual respondent numbers and some, and metadata, et cetera, that her survey produces.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank Laura and Matthew for your presentation. And next, the report will go on the floor. CLK 6, 2026, roles, responsibility, and safeguards for the 2026 municipal and school board election. In accordance with the approved agenda, the report will be dealt with now. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Councillor DeAngelo and Councillor O'Hare. The report is on the floor, and Nicholas and Justin are here to answer any questions. Are there any questions to staff? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Nicholas. Nicholas, can voters use the online portal right up until the closing of the polls?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So online voting will be available from October 9th, starting early in the morning, and it will be unavailable after midnight on October 24th. So it will not be open during the actual voting day of October 26th.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Doros.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Great report, Nicholas and Justin. Just a quick question, though, and this always bothers me. Can you just explain briefly exactly how your system verifies that every person casting a ballot is legally eligible to vote in the city of Thorold? Specifically, how do you verify Canadian citizenship, age, residency, and voting qualifications, rather than simply verifying someone's identity? Because that's what I feel like we're doing, is we're validating their identity, but these other things, I'm just curious how you track them. Thank you.
So first, you need to get on the voters list, right? And we're heavily advertising that to members of the public to go onto the Elections Ontario website and check to see if you are on the list, right? If you've moved here recently, it always helps to check regardless. And then there are supporting documents that one would submit right directly through the Elections Ontario web portal. It would be reviewed by their staff, and assuming the documents follow the legislative requirements. These are set out in provincial legislation, by the way. This isn't set by the municipalities. This is the province that sets these requirements. Then they would be added to the voters list. I think the report kind of goes into detail on what happens when someone comes in to vote in person and how they confirm they are who they say they are, that they are an eligible elector. But again, we're bound by the Municipal Elections Act, and specifically OREG 04314, I believe, which sets out the identification requirements. So if someone provides that list of identification that's specifically listed in the regulation, then that's sufficient, and that's established by the province.
Thank you, Nicholas. And also, are these, is there instructions on our city website to help people navigate that? Or will they be provided before the election?
Yes, we have a wealth of information on our website. Justin's done a great job in providing those resources, and it's a fluid thing, right? So if there's something that we can add to it, we absolutely will. It's not set in stone, but there's a lot of information there.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know in the report it states that letters will be sent out in September for the identification pin to vote. Is there a specific date that's been selected as being sent out? The only reason I ask it, it'd be good to know, so that way if someone doesn't receive it within, say, a week after being mailed out, then they can follow up with the city for not receiving their letter.
Go ahead, Nicholas.
We don't have a specified date yet, like September 8th, nothing that specific. But we are aiming to have the letters sent out, I believe, Justin, was it mid-September?
Yeah, through you, we're looking at mid-September ideally to late September. And then we would plan to, on our social media and promotions, to say, look for your letter in the mail. And if you don't receive it by a certain date, to follow these steps. To check if you're on the list, because sometimes they may just not have gotten a letter, or maybe they're not on the list and they can find ways to add themselves by that point.
Thanks for that answer. Then my secondary one, when is the cutoff to get onto that electors list? Just curious on that. So if someone asked me, can I still get on the Elections Ontario list? When is the cutoff for that? And then what happens if they can't get on the list? Then do they just go to the one of the locations, a polling location? Maybe a little clarity on that.
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor. So August 12th is the last day for people to actually try to put themselves on the list through Elections Ontario. At that point, Elections Ontario kind of finalizes and creates their preliminary list of electors, which gets sent out to the municipalities. So at that point, we're essentially in carriage of the list, and any addition would be done by contacting the clerk's department. If someone isn't on the list and they have the ID requirements and the residency proof that's set out in the legislation, of course they can show up on election day, right, and add themselves to the list. So there's still opportunity. Of course, it's always great if people do it early before August 12th.
Okay, so just for clarity, so they could come into City Hall with the proper documentation between August 12th and the final day of internet voting. They could come to City Hall and then register at that point in time, or they could take their documentation on election day and go to a specific poll. Just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, both.
Okay,
So,
both. Okay.
yeah.
Perfect then.
Any further?
It was just regarding the integrity of the voters list. It sounds like Elections Ontario is doing the bulk of the heavy lifting on that in terms of documentation that's got to be provided, and then there's some opportunity here if someone wants to register. The only other question I had was regarding the letters that are being sent out. Are they going to be sent out just to Thorold residents or everyone that's on the voters list? There might be landlords that live in other communities. Will they also be mailed a card to vote?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's to people who are on the voters list.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Nicholas once more, just a short question. And that is, is the municipality going to be asking for the exact same documents of proof as the Ontario election site will be asking?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we are bound by that regulation that the province has essentially established what is acceptable forms of identification / proof of address.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and
yeah,
can you remind residents what some of those are so that if they do come at some point, they come prepared?
Yes, I would suggest, Justin, if you have something to add, but there are links on our website.
Everything's
Yep.
on the website.
Through you can, on the website and on the Government of Ontario website, has the full wholesome list. There is a lot of documents that can be used. Some examples are driver's license, Ontario photo card, mortgage, lease agreement, rental agreement, insurance policy, credit card, or a bill for hydro, water, gas, telephone, cable TV, and more so. There is a lot on the list.
Excellent.
So
Okay.
basically anything that has name and address is usually on that list.
Great. Super. Thanks.
Okay, is there anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we had a mover and a seconder for the report. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Delegations. Now we move on to agenda item 15.1, and this is the temporary housing shelter support report. But up first, we have a delegation, Tyler Robillard, member of the public, and I'll call on Tyler. And Tyler, you have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation. Welcome.
So when I wrote this was going to be a 3-hour lecture. So I decided to cut it short. Give me a little bit leniency, maybe 13 minutes.
No, you're getting 10 minutes.
Okay.
And we will be strict on the 10 minutes.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Ugolini, members of council, and members of our community. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. Before I begin discussing shelters, public policy, or municipal planning, I'd like to take you back nearly 40 years to a time where for some of us, there's a little bit more hair involved in our life. In 1988, singer-songwriter Tracy Chapman released a powerful song called Behind the Wall. It wasn't written to entertain, it was written to expose. The song tells us of a woman trapped behind her own home. Her neighbors hear shouting, they hear things breaking, they hear someone crying, someone calls the police. By the time officers arrive, the noise has stopped, the walls remain. Chapman never tells us exactly what happened. She doesn't need to, because everyone listening understands. The walls have done exactly what they were built to do. They've hidden the violence. Nearly 40 years later, those walls are still standing. Today, they may be walls of an apartment, a townhouse, a suburban home, a hotel room, or they may be hidden behind a carefully curated social media post that convinced the world everything is fine. I'm fine, the greatest lie ever told, because we are too afraid to let others see us truly. But behind those walls, the same fear continues to exist. The bruises remain unseen, the tears remain unheard, the children remain silent, and far too often, the violence continues. Every police report represents a life disrupted. Every emergency call represents someone reaching a breaking point. Every statistic represents a person, a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, a neighbor. And every victim's life becomes divided into two chapters: before the violence and after. That's why we are here tonight. Not simply to discuss a building, not simply to debate budgets, not simply to consider another motion. We are here to answer a far more important question. What kind of city do we want Thorold to become? My name is Tyler Roblard, although many people throughout our community simply know me as Big T. There's a story behind that name, but tonight's not about me, nor does the moniker mean Tyler. Tonight is about the people behind the walls. For the past 16 years, I've worked in the security profession, responding to emergencies and helping people through some of the most difficult moments of their lives. And for the past 6 to 7 years, as a surprise to family and friends, I've also served as a counselor specializing in relationships, trauma, abuse, and restoration. And beyond my frontline work, I also serve as a security industry advocate and advisor with the Canada Security Collective, where I work alongside professionals from across the country to advance public safety policy and strengthen Canada's security profession. I also have the privilege of hosting the Sentinels Forum, the Collective's national podcast where we bring together leaders from policing, emergency management, security, mental health, government, and community organizations to discuss the challenges facing Canadians and the solutions needed to build a safer, stronger community. Those experiences have taught me something profound. Violence never stays inside the home. Its consequences spread outward. Schools inherit it, hospitals inherit it, police officers inherit it, mental health professionals inherit it, municipal governments inherit it, and most importantly, children carry it with them long after the violence itself has ended. That's why I'm standing before you tonight, not simply as a counselor, not simply as a security professional, not simply as a public safety advocate. I'm here as someone who has listened to survivors, responded to crises, studied prevention, and come to believe that every human being deserves a place of refuge. I also want council to understand that my concern here is not crisis response, it's prevention. In addition to my work in counseling and public safety, I've been developing practical course and curriculum material geared towards students, educators, families, and community leaders. The purpose is simple: to give people real tools, not armchair therapy. Practical, teachable, proven tools. Prevention begins long before the police are called. It begins in classrooms, it begins in homes, it begins in friendships, it begins when somebody has the courage and language to say something about this relationship is not healthy. That work is directly connected to why I'm here tonight. A shelter is necessary because people need somewhere safe to go when the violence has already occurred. That's how communities become safer. Tonight, I believe Thorold has an opportunity to become exactly that. That naturally brings us to a question I've been asked more than any other. Why Thorold? It's a fair question. There are certainly other communities facing the same challenge. There are other municipalities growing social issues. There are other councils wrestling with difficult priorities. So why should Thorold take the lead? There are many arguments I can give, but instead of giving you a laundry list, I'll give you one that every councillor can appreciate. Because Thorold is changing. Our city is one of the fastest growing municipalities in the Niagara region, one of the fastest growing communities in Ontario, and we make top 10 in Canada. We celebrate that growth, and we should. Growth means families are choosing to call Thorold home. It means businesses see opportunity here. It means people believe in the future of the city. But every blessing carries a responsibility. Anybody who has worked in emergency management, policing, fire services, paramedicine, security, municipal planning understands a simple principle. As population increases, the demand for public safety increases. Not because people are worse, but because statistics are impartial. More people inevitably means more emergencies, more medical calls, more traffic collisions, more mental health crises, more fire, more disputes, and yes, more incidents of intimate partner violence. This isn't pessimism, it isn't fear, it's mathematics. It's why municipalities don't wait for a fire hall to become overwhelmed before planning another one. It's why we expand roads before congestion becomes a paralysis. It's why we upgrade water and wastewater infrastructure before development exceeds capacity. We don't call that overreaction. We call it responsible governance. We call it planning. So why should domestic violence be treated any differently? If we know the community is growing, if we know intimate partner violence remains a serious concern throughout Niagara, if we know frontline organizations continue to tell us that shelter capacity is under significant pressure, then shouldn't we begin planning now rather than waiting for the crisis to grow even larger? To me, that isn't simply just good social policy, it's good municipal planning, it's good public safety, and it's good stewardship. The hardest step for someone living in an abusive relationship is often not surviving the abuse, it's deciding to leave. The decision may take months, sometimes years, sometimes decades. A survivor has to overcome fear, financial dependence, isolation, manipulation, threats, shame, fear for their children, fear that no one will believe them. And then, after summoning extraordinary courage, they finally make the decision to leave, and the last thing they should hear is, "I'm sorry, there's no room." Counsel, courage should never be met with a waiting list. It should be met with refuge. Because the first responsibility of a community is not merely to respond after tragedy has occurred. It is to create the conditions that make tragedy less likely in the first place. Leadership isn't measured by how well we respond to emergency. It's measured by whether we saw them coming and had the wisdom to prepare. Tonight, Thorold has that opportunity to do exactly that. Not because we have all the answers, but because we are willing to become part of the solution. Whenever I speak about public safety, I find myself returning to one simple question. What is government actually for? Because if we cannot answer that question, we will struggle to determine what deserves our greatest attention. Someone will say government exists to promote economic growth. Others will point to infrastructure, healthcare, education, housing, environmental stewardship. All of those responsibilities are important, but I would argue they are the foundation, they are not the fruit. The first responsibility of any civilized society is the protection of innocent human life and the preservation of human dignity. Everything else rests upon that foundation. Roads have little value if people are too afraid to travel them. Economic prosperity means very little to someone living in fear inside their own home. Beautiful neighborhoods lose much of their meaning when families living in them are suffering in silence. Government exists because people cannot flourish where violence is allowed to reign. That truth has not changed throughout history, and it has not changed today. The reality is that domestic violence is often spoken about as though it's a private matter. It is not. It begins behind closed doors, but it never stays there. The violence within the home eventually becomes everyone's concern. Schools inherit children carrying trauma into the classroom. Hospitals treat physical injuries. Mental health professionals help people navigate wounds they cannot be seen. Police investigate assaults, enforce court orders, and intervene in dangerous situations. Employers lose productive employees. Communities experience increased homelessness, addiction, poverty, and social instability. Municipal governments absorb the growing financial and human costs of responding after the damage has already been done. The violence may begin in private, but the consequences are profoundly public. That's why I reject the idea that a domestic violence shelter is simply another social program. I believe it is public safety infrastructure. We do not question the need for fire stations because most of the homes never catch fire. We do not question ambulances because most people will not require one today. We do not question flood medication because the river is calm this afternoon. We prepare because wise communities understand that preparation is always less costly than crisis. Why should places of refuge be viewed any differently? If we know intimate partner violence exists, if we know survivors need a safe place to go, if we know existing shelters across Niagara continue to face significant pressure, then prepare. Okay. I have two requests from council The first is that I want this to be decided by a recorded vote, and the second would be to consider a friendly amendment to direct our mayor to bring this before the regional council. Let's not have this conversation end here tonight. Thank you.
Well, it's sort of a question, but not a question. I know you had a presentation. You have more that you haven't said. Can you get a copy of that to the councilors so we can read that later?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll email it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Through Mr. Mayor, whereas individuals and families fleeing intimate partner violence require access to safe and supportive emergency and transitional housing options, and whereas parents fleeing abuse with multiple children may face additional barriers in accessing appropriate shelter and housing supports due to the size and composition of their family, and whereas successful recovery from abuse is supported not only by safe housing but also by access to appropriate transitional and support services, and whereas access to such services is a regional responsibility and is critical to supporting vulnerable residents and families across the region of Niagara, and whereas the City of Thorold is strategically located within the Niagara region and is well positioned to support access to regional shelter and transitional housing services, including counseling, health care, employment supports, and child care services, and whereas the city recognizes the potential benefits of having a shelter or transitional housing facility located within a municipality to improve access to services for those in need. Now therefore be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Thorold enacts as follows: that Thorold City Council supports the exploration of a shelter and or transitional housing facility within the City of Thorold for individuals and families fleeing intimate partner violence, including accommodations that can appropriately support parents with multiple children. Number two, that Thorold City Council affirms its willingness to work collaboratively with the region, service providers, and community partners to explore opportunities that may facilitate the establishment of such a facility within the city. Number three, that the Thorold City Council recognizes that shelter and homelessness services are a regional responsibility, and city staff be authorized to collaborate with and support regional staff in any region-led exploration of opportunities related to the establishment of a shelter and or transitional housing facility within the City of Thorold. And four, that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Ontario Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, the Ontario Minister of Health, the Attorney General of Ontario, local members of Provincial Parliament, Niagara Region, Niagara Regional Council, and local housing authorities. And Mr. Mayor, could I just speak on that for a second? Okay. Okay, so just so everybody knows, this resolution does not commit the City of Thorold to building or funding a shelter. Rather, it expresses Council's willingness to work collaboratively with Niagara Region and community partners to explore opportunities to improve access to safe shelter and transitional housing for individuals and families fleeing intimate partner violence. No one escaping abuse should be denied safety because they have multiple children or because appropriate accommodations are unavailable within our region. While the responsibility for shelter and homelessness service rests with Niagara Region, municipalities have an important role in supporting solutions that improve the well-being of students. Thorold is well positioned to be part of that solution. Our location, access to transportation, and proximity to healthcare, education, childcare, and employment services makes our community a suitable place to explore a facility that could help some of Niagara's most vulnerable residents rebuild their lives. Supporting this resolution demonstrates compassion, leadership, and a commitment to work collaboratively on a regional challenge. It simply opens the door to discussion and partnership, ensuring that any future proposal would be considered through the appropriate planning, consultation, and public processes. I respectfully ask my colleagues to support this motion so that Thorold can be part of a regional effort to provide safety, dignity, and hope for those escaping intimate partner violence. Thank you.
Mike. Councillor Ditavitis, go ahead.
Oh, I had a question for Mr. Carmen. Where do you propose the shelter be located? Downtown, or is the?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Ditavitis. I'm not proposing anywhere. I think we have to collaboratively work with the region, and they can decide together the best location. I'm not an expert at this. Tyler might have more insight into that, but I just somewhere in Thorold that's effective and serves its purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Oh, go ahead, Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, just got a question. I know it's going to be forwarded to the Niagara region, to regional councillors. Do they have a similar system when there's resolutions brought forward to the region, similar to here? They go and
get pulled, but this resolution would have to go to committee first, which would be public health. Councillor Whalen sits on public health. Those, they have to go through committee and then to council. Because if you try and bring it to council, they're going to refer it back to committee. That's the procedure, and you know that because you were a region.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's what I was just asking. Yeah. I didn't need a lecture. I just needed to know that it's going to a committee, or did it have to be pulled to go to a committee, similar to what we do here in Thorold? We don't put resolutions on our docket unless they're pulled by a councillor.
Somebody, a councillor would pull it, and
okay, so can you at least talk to Councillor Whalen, because I don't believe he's in the crowd tonight,
I will
make sure it gets pulled so it goes through the committee level. That's what the presenter was looking for.
Yeah,
thank you.
No, that's a fair comment. Go ahead, Councillor.
And Mr. Mayor, from Tyler's request, can I ask for a recorded vote, please? Thank you.
You can, absolutely. It's in order. Okay, so we're going to take the recorded vote now, and I'll get the city clerk to run the recorded vote. Yeah.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, so Councillor DeRose has requested the recorded vote, so we will start with Councillor DeRose.
In favor?
Okay. Councillor Longo?
In favor.
Councillor Decker online?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm in favor.
Okay, Councillor Ditavitis?
In favor.
Councillor O'Hare?
In favor.
Councillor D'Angela?
In favor.
Councillor Sentence?
In favor.
Okay, Councillor Hanley is not online. Mr. Mayor?
In favor.
Okay, so that carries.
Unanimous.
Yes.
Okay. 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 So, what? Okay, so now we're going to move on to statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. I'll call to order the public meeting being held pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act as amended, respecting proposed official plan amendment for a portion of 436 Quaker Road. The applicant presentation, I'll call on Rachel LaRock, planner with the Biglieri Group for their presentation, and remind you, you have up to 10 minutes for your presentation. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe there is a presentation. Perfect. Thank you. My name is Rochelle LaRock. I am a registered professional planner and partner with the Biglieri Group. I'm here tonight representing Premont Homes. With me from Fremont Homes is Armando Lopes, as well as from our consulting team, Jamie Campbell with Thorold Dynamics and Rob Barnett from Walter Fetty. Next slide, please. To provide context of where the subject site is, the subject site is identified in blue on this slide, but it's part of a larger parcel owned by Fremont Homes, which is highlighted in yellow. And as you can see, it straddles both the municipal boundaries of Welland and Thorold. The lands to the south in Welland have already been given draft plan approval for plan of subdivision, and will be developed for residential purposes as they are part of the Welland Northwest area expansion area. Additional lands are also owned, not highlighted, within the town of Pelham, which is the boundary to the west of the site. The total parcel that's highlighted in yellow is approximately 60 hectares in size, with it being split almost evenly, with 30 hectares within Thorold and 30 hectares within Welland. Next slide, please. To further refine what's being requested, the portion of the property that's subject to this application is highlighted in blue on this slide. It represents about 4.2 hectares of that 30 hectares within the city of Thorold. It's immediately adjacent and contiguous to the lands that have been draft plan approved within the city of Welland. The purpose of requesting this official plan amendment is to allow for concurrent development of both the Thorold and Welland properties. Because they are so close, it'll allow for development to occur at the same time. And it was also through discussions with the city of Welland that this application and these discussions with the city of Thorold occurred. Primarily, the city of Welland had suggested exploring opportunities to service this portion of the property through the expansion to the servicing on First Avenue or Cataract Road, because of its proximity and because of the infrastructure upgrades that are imminent on the Welland side, and the fact that the end of pipe is the same treatment facility, being that on Marriott Island for sanitary, and the water coming from the water treatment plant also within Welland, and everything in the sanitary pipe will go to the same pumping station within the city of Welland, whether it go north through the city of Thorold's planned route along Merritt Road or south through Welland along Quaker Road. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the official plan amendment is to request relief from the policy that's on the screen, and I will not read it because in recognition of the time I have. But the purpose of this policy within the Port Robinson West secondary plan area is to provide sequencing of development within the secondary plan. The amendment that we're requesting is textual in nature, meaning it is just an amendment to this section to allow us to apply for development applications. The application for official plan amendment in front of you will not permit us to have conditions of draft plan approval. It will not be approving any sort of residential development at this time. It will be allowing us to make that application for draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment. I'll also note that there are land use designations within that Port Robinson West secondary plan, and the underlying designation on these lands are residential. Next slide, please. To provide a bit more context, this is the Port Robinson West secondary plan area. The subject lands are highlighted in purple. They are on the southwest portion of this area. I will note that additional lands have been brought into the city of Thorold in this area through the region's 2022 official plan update, but haven't been included as part of the schedule within the city of Thorold's official plan. Next slide, please. So one of the criteria that we are looking for relief from identifies that neighborhood 3, which our site is identified as, can only move forward if the neighborhoods 1, 2, and 5 have been substantially built out. I would identify this plan or this aerial photo is not current, and I would argue that this area has been substantially built out with additional houses fronting onto Port Robinson Road that have been constructed by Empire Homes. I would also point out that the policy wording is rather vague in saying substantially built out, because it's not a quantifiable measure that we can refer to and say this many homes are left, this area is still waiting for development. So we would argue that this area has substantially built out, and therefore that one criteria has been met. Next slide, please. The second criteria is that the neighborhood 3 or the remaining neighborhoods within the secondary plan area can't move forward until a sub-watershed study has been updated for these lands. And I recognize that there are a lot of lines on this map, and I will not claim to be a hydrogeologist, which is why I've brought Jamie Campbell with me tonight, but I will try and make it easy to understand. The towpath drain is highlighted in red on this plan. It falls primarily within the city of Welland, with some of the lands within the towpath drainage area falling into the town of Pelham as well as the city of Thorold. The Singer's Drain, which would be the area reviewed through the sub-watershed study within the city of Thorold, is highlighted in green on this plan. And it shows that it's primarily within the city of Thorold, very small area falling within the city of Welland, as well as within the town of Pelham. The blue line is the line that was identified by the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority in their sub-watershed review of 1999. The green line, and that was for the Singer's Drain. The green line is their 2009 review of the Singer's Drain watershed. This difference in sub-watershed lines is due to additional ways of calculating these sub-watershed areas, improved methods, and improved information. Our subject site is identified on this map as the purple area, and it is hard to see, but it does fall between both the Singer's Drain and the towpath drain. Next slide, please. To provide information that's based on that previous slide, this shows the actual drainage of the area that's subject to the official plan amendment. The area highlighted in blue is what flows south towards the towpath drain in Welland, which has been reviewed as part of their secondary plan and is currently being updated through development within the city of Welland. The areas that are not highlighted flow north towards the Singer's Drain, which is the area that would be reviewed through the city's updated sub-watershed study. As you can see, the majority of this property flows south, and we are of the opinion that it will have very little impact on the overall Singer's Drain watershed area if this property were to be able to move forward with development prior to the completion of that sub-watershed study. Further to that, any of those areas that are not highlighted and are flowing north towards the Singer's Drain area would be used for rear yard amenity areas for residential uses, which would mean that it's not paved surface, which would increase overland flow to that watershed area. Because it would be amenity area, it'll improve and increase the ability for infiltration and lessen the impact on the overall Singer's Drain watershed.
You have 30 seconds left.
I think I have 2 more slides, and I can be quick. So the next slide is just to provide an identification of where we are in the process. It says that we started the pre-consultation in October of 2025. We've been speaking with staff since, I believe, this time in 2025. So we've been working with staff to move through this process. We're at the statutory public meeting, and based on discussions with staff, anticipate that a recommendation report will be provided in 2026. Once that approval, which is of course at the discretion of council, once that approval is in place, that would allow us to make the subsequent applications for draft plan of subdivision as well as zoning bylaw amendment. And the last slide is that I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Rachel, and I'll open the floor for questions. Are there any questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter, thank you for coming in today. I have a hard time with this request. We have this written in our bylaw 2019 for a purpose. This is a Greenbelt Natural Heritage Site. It's in place that we have the environmental impact study to prevent any future problems occurring. So I'm wondering how you can explain why you think we should bypass the environmental impact study and keep our fingers crossed that everything's okay. I'm confused at that. So if you can help me out.
Through the mayor, it's the exact opposite that we're asking. We're not asking for the environmental study to be waived. In fact, our biologist has been out on site for 3 seasons. As part of the sub-watershed study, there is a larger environmental study that's undertaken. However, it's at, say, 3,000 feet. Because the ability for your consultants to get out on every site and do the same level of investigation that we will be doing is quite frankly impossible, because the amount that it would cost you and the time it would take is just not feasible. So we are not requesting that we be relieved of that requirement to undertake that study. We have our own consultants who are going out on the ground and ground truthing to do that 3-season study and have already started it. So we fully anticipate that a full environmental impact study will be completed as part of any subsequent applications, and quite frankly will be far more detailed regarding this site and the characteristics of this property than any environmental study that's completed as part of your sub-watershed study.
So part of our bylaw 2018 is that no development or site alteration can take place without the EIS. So you're proposing that you will do site alteration before anything occurs. And how do you turn back development once you've started? So this is concerning to me.
Councillor, you'll be able to ask questions to staff when it gets to that point.
Okay,
well,
thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to answer that question. This application does not permit any development. This application is for text purposes only. This application allows us to make an application for plan of subdivision with the full suite of reports and studies by our experts to support that prior to the city completing your sub-watershed study. So this application is really just to request that our application can be made as soon as our consultants have completed all of their studies, rather than waiting for the city's sub-watershed study, which will look at how the Singer's Drain is draining. We'll look at servicing. We'll look at high-level environmental. As my presentation showed, this property, very small portion, flows north towards the Singer's Drain. We're flowing south towards the towpath drain, which has been studied, which has the capacity. We have a servicing solution which has been recommended by the City of Welland. We know that we would have to undertake a host of cross-border agreements with municipalities, but this application doesn't permit any development. We're not asking for any site alterations. We're asking for permission to make an application, which you would then evaluate that application based on the merits of the reports and studies, including an EIS that's in front of you.
Councillor?
Just one follow-up question then. So in that case, if you need to wait for the environmental impact study, what seems to be the rush? I mean, you may do all this work and then it's got to be stopped. So is there a rush here to get this completed before the environmental impact study does get completed?
Through the mayor, we're not asking to submit prior to that EIS. The EIS should be ready end of summer, early fall. So we're talking it will be done within the next 3 months, whereas your sub-watershed study won't be ready for a minimum of another 1.5 years. And because we have approval for the lands within the City of Welland, it would mean that we are that much further behind being able to create a neighborhood that's cohesive, that is seeing the construction all at the same time. Because as much as you and I know that there are municipal boundaries, when you are living in your house in this neighborhood, there is no magical line on the ground that says that my neighbor across the street is in Welland and I'm in Thorold. It's going to act like one big neighborhood, and I can tell you that there's nothing new residents hate more than moving into their house and 2 years later, heavy equipment coming and ripping up everything and causing dust and causing noise because we haven't been able to coordinate our approvals.
Councillor?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I was looking at your diagram here. You have the stormwater management ponds, but they look like they're on the northern portions that flow towards Singer's Drain. Is that going to be included in the sub-watershed study?
So is that the drawing with the blue highlight on it?
It's in your presentation, one of the slides there towards the end of it. The last slide. I have it as the last slide. No, after you had your timeline, there's a Q&A, and then there's another slide, concept plan, Merritt Road unopened. Yeah. So when you're looking at that, from your description of flows, you're mentioning, and again, you almost need to transpose the other map showing the arrows of where the flow is. Looks like the two storm management ponds are actually on the flow going towards Singer's Drain. Is that going to impact the sub-watershed study? Because now you're mentioning everything's flowing south, but you put the two ponds furthest north, flowing the opposite direction. So are you anticipating putting more water into those areas there? So it will impact the Singer's Drain area?
So these are still conceptual, and I can't say that phase 2 we haven't even applied for. Phase 2 is outside of this area. I will say for that pond, and I do have our civil engineer with me who will correct me if I'm wrong, The intent is, yes, that pond is there at the north end. However, that pond will flow south. So because it's a pond, it's holding, the release will be through for underground infrastructure to the towpath drain. So it won't be flowing overland to the north into the Singer's Drain.
Okay, water tends to flow the easiest route. I know you have piping going one way, but I'm just concerned about that. And is that something, maybe that's a staff question after, Mr. Mayor, is that something that will be picked up in the subwater study that's being done? Because I know these are conceptual, but you're putting water in the most northern spots flowing towards the Singer's Drain. And I do have some other questions on Singer's Drain, but I think I'll leave those for staff.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. A few things were said about site alteration, and I just want clarity if you could. During the time of the sub-watershed study, you'll be in here doing your own work. There'll be absolutely no site alteration, is that correct? From your consultant?
Through the mayor, if this application was approved and we were to get draft plan approval, depending on the construction schedule, and it would all be dependent on getting approval of this application, getting approval of a subsequent plan of subdivision application, and then getting all of those conditions cleared. If that were to happen within the same time period as the city's doing their sub-watershed study, then yes, there would be site alteration occurring during that same period. But that's a lot of ifs. So if this application were to be approved, it doesn't allow us to do any site alteration. Even if you give us draft plan of subdivision approval, that doesn't permit us to do any site alteration without clearing conditions of subdivision approval.
Okay, you've answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Rachel. And now I'm going to move on to Mark Freeman, resident, provided written correspondence respecting the proposed official plan amendment for a portion of 436 Quaker Road submitted. And everybody seen that in their package? Okay, and I want to thank Mark for that written correspondence. At this time, is there anyone online or present in the chamber who wishes to speak on the applications? Is there anyone online?
There's an individual here, I'm not sure if they're just sitting in.
Who's that?
I'm just here because they're out there. Nothing to say. I'm just part of the consulting team.
He's just listening. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. At this time, is there anyone online or present in the chamber who wishes to speak on the application? He's just there listening, he said? Okay. And I'll ask one last time. Is there anyone online or present in the chamber who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing no one, the planning report, 11.3, DS 34-2026, the proposed official plan amendment application for a portion of 436 Quaker Road, D0901-2026, and this report is only presented to council for information purposes. It is currently open for questions and/or comment from members of City Council. Please note comments will be captured by city staff and incorporated into the final report, which will be brought forward to a future council meeting for consideration. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive the report? I got Councillor DeRose and Councillor O'Hare. At this time, is there any questions or comments from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a question for staff, Nancy.
Nancy's here. You
yeah.
can answer that.
So you heard myself bring it up as well as Councillor Longo, and I don't think we quite received the definitive answer that we would like to hear, so I'm going to readdress it, and that is that according to our bylaw 2019 in section 14.4, it clearly says no development or site alteration can occur without the environmental impact study. Is that true? Will that be held to?
Go ahead, Nancy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That is correct, but the important piece here is that we're talking about the official plan policy, which is the request to be amended. And that amendment would, the requested amendment would remove the requirement for a sub-watershed study, which is what we're currently working on. And in fact, we initiated that just a month ago, and we're working with our consultants on it, which will ultimately require environmental impact studies. But we have to go through the process, and we would like to look at the lands at a landscape level, not just property by property. So this is part of the overall framework, which includes our official plan policy, our secondary plan policies, and our zoning bylaw policies. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to protect that framework that has been established.
Mm-hmm. And I fully support that. So it certainly would be wisest to wait for that environmental impact study before agreeing to anything. Certainly a change to the official plan as I see it. Is that something you would agree with, or is that something staff is working on at present?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we would agree with that. We appreciate the amount of work that has been done, and we would love to work with the applicant to accept their the data and work that into our process. But at this time, we are hesitant to eliminate or circumvent the requirement for the broader sub-watershed study.
Okay. And so at this point, this is just a report for information, and then planning staff will be returning with a recommendation on which we'll vote.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Councillor D'Angelo and then Councillor Longo. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just getting back to the sub-watershed study. We're still proceeding with that, and we're looking at the greater Singer's Drain area. Will these, I asked earlier, will the two storm management ponds be part of that study as it moves forward?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're working with a consultant that worked on phase one, and so we have all the information and all the data. The phase one work, and we're taking that all into consideration. So the short answer is yes, but at this point we're not really prepared to discuss any technical information or results because we're just initiating this project.
Okay, I don't need the technical, it's just a matter of it's going to be looked at is more of my understanding that I'm hearing. And then also at this point in time, is the Singer's Drain operating appropriately? Because I know that area tends to flood at different times down Cataract Road. So, to me, that's also critical when we're looking at that because there's been some pretty severe floods there impacting the residents that are there already. So I just want to make sure that Singer's Drain is operating appropriately to mitigate the flows so they're not impacting the local neighborhoods. And is it just are you going to a phase two sub-watershed study, or we will be going to that? Okay, that answers my question.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Long, wait, 1 sec. Did you want to comment, Brian? Before?
Yeah, not to belabor anything, but through you, Mr. Mayor, the Concept of the Singer's Drain is a large focus of this subwatershed study, and an individual like Sean Dunsmore is a key part of that process to make sure that we've properly explored how to ensure adequate drainage and that it's functioning properly in the future.
I always like when Sean's involved. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the appropriate staff member. At this point, it sounds like staff will come back with a recommendation report. Just wondering how much work and time is involved in preparing a report like that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will say, because we have hired someone who worked on our Phase 1 report, we have some economic advantages. In terms of preparing a report, nothing more arduous than any study or policy study. We're going to go through the process as required by the Planning Act. We have a 5-phase study in place, and we're collecting stakeholders and landowners, and that report went through in February and was adopted by Council. So that is the process that we are implementing.
Okay, I just have a hypothetical question. Suppose could council tonight say that they don't want staff to do a recommendation report? Is that possible?
I will leave that to planning or to our clerk to answer. I would, go ahead, Brian, did you want to tackle that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've seen it done before where council makes a decision in the absence of a staff report. It's probably safer to wait for the staff report than you have a professional recommendation to make your decision against in case there is an appeal mechanism. And at the OLT, they'll certainly be looking for staff comments. So I've seen it done, but I would caution that is probably not the best move.
Okay, Councillor.
I will heed your caution. Thank you.
My question is just a simple question. It was referred that the study's going to take 1.5 years from the applicant, but what is our base, what are we looking from our perspective? Do we think that's an accurate number, Brian?
I believe the report that we brought forward a couple of months ago indicated January of 2028. Yeah.
Okay, so it's an accurate, relatively accurate figure. Okay. Councillor DeRose, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just going to ask to put the report on the floor.
Okay.
I think Councillor Dan's got a question.
You have a question before the report gets voted?
Yeah, again, just going, again, I don't want to harp on this too much, but Singer's Drain, we just have to make sure that's operating appropriately, because landowners tend to fill in some areas. We had this with the Allenport Drain, and then it became a very costly venture to reinstitute a drainage pattern that was critical so the lands weren't being flooded. Very costly to the local residents. So just want to make sure that Singer's Drain is operating the way it's supposed to be. Thank you.
Good point. Okay. We had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. So adjournment of the public meeting. This fulfills the requirement of the Planning Act pursuant to Section 34, and thank you, Nancy, for your comments. The public meeting portion of this application is now adjourned at 8:03 p.m. Okay. Now we move on to items for consent, and we have items 12.1 to 12.9. Can I get a mover and a seconder for these? I got Councillor DeRose and Councillor O'Hare. We'll use those two movers for all of them. Are there any that you want to pull and to make a comment on? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Items 12.2 and 12.3. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
12.6.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor.
12.1, 12.8.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could I pull 12.4?
12.4? And we
Yep.
already got that one already?
Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So we'll start with 12-1. Who pulled 12-1? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are the recommendations from the Road Safety Committee, and it's great to see that we're moving forward on Pine Street to get no parking signs put back up, but that's progressing. The one item I did want to mention, it wasn't captured in the motions, and I don't know if we want to add this in. It was a staff direction, which was a motion, to work with the MTO to improve painted and directional arrows on the overpass on Pine Street. It's not listed on here, but I think it's important that we list it just so that it doesn't get lost. There was a fulsome discussion at the Road Safety Committee regarding that, and staff was going to work with the MTO, but it's not as one of the directions on there.
Do you want to add a fourth one?
Well, I like to, the only reason I like to add it, I don't want it getting lost in the shuffle somewhere along the way here. It's an important safety issue that the committee and several citizens have brought forward. And it was basically just to direct staff to work with the MTO to improve painted and directional arrows on the overpass on Pine Street.
Okay. Is that who we work through, Sean? Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah. Can I get a seconder for that amendment? I got Councillor Longo. Okay. So let's vote on the amendment first. We had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And now 12-1 as a whole. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, 12-2.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just interject, I know you had made a comment regarding Pine Street and DQ. No,
yeah.
Pine and Beaver Dams, about the stop sign. You mentioned something.
I can tell you, I talked to Frank Testoni today, the Director of Transportation, and he hopes to have those signs up by the end of the week. They'll be on temporary mounts until they put the permanent, but he's hoping to have the signs up by the end of the week.
I just wanted, that's good news. The residents have been asking for it.
I know, it's been long overdue.
Yeah, so thank you for that update.
Okay. And 12-2, that's Councillor O'Hare. Go ahead. That's the support for modernizing Ontario's invasive plant rules.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm hoping Council will send a strong message regarding this action that's required. Ontario has a very severe invasive species problem. We don't recognize it because we see it as plants, but these plants are very destructive. They cause disruption to municipal infrastructure, to our parks, to our roadways. For example, the tall grasses that we see everywhere in Thorold, called Phragmites, they are so destructive. They're stealing our wetlands away. They're taking over and causing upheaval through our municipal infrastructure. And municipalities throughout Ontario and Canada tend to try to just deal with the issues at hand and not try to eliminate. And this is where we need to get ahead of this game, because if we allow these invasive species to thrive, then we will be submitting our natural ecosystem to great harm, not only our plant life, but our wildlife, because natural foods that they require are no longer available. So it has a huge issue, but it's, again, one of these silent issues that nobody seems to recognize because, as I say, it's part of nature, and you think it's all lovely when you look out the window and see the nice blowing grasses. But I'd like Council to support this initiative and hope that in the very near future, we have some tougher rules on how to deal with some of these invasive species.
Thank you,
So,
Councillor.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Did you want to speak on that, Councillor Dora?
I just have a question, like, how do you, like, I guess it would be the staff, what staff would be attached to this? Because
I don't think there's any staff attached to this at this point,
not.
Councillor DeRose. What it is to try to establish some rules so that we can control and,
Yeah.
and eliminate or stop some of this invasive spread.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have a lot of questions when that comes out then, just because I'm just wondering how you police that, how you deal with it,
Well,
and that's all. But
okay.
that'll come, I guess, in the future. Thank you.
Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 12-3, go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this again comes from the townships of Punslich and Stone Mills, and everyone knows that the Freedom of Information Act from Bill 97 has been introduced, and what it does is it restricts the capability of residents, of journalists, of anyone who's concerned to directly request information from the Premier's office, from not just his office, but cabinet ministers, parliamentary assistants. And this is not, in my opinion, who we are as a free democratic society. We shouldn't be reducing the rights of people. We shouldn't be reducing information. So I'm a little concerned that this has gone through, as are many people. And simply what it boils down to is that information rights are being blocked. So we as a municipality may need to request some of this information, but if these blockages are in place, then we will be turned down just like everybody else. So I'm hoping that once again that council will support this this drive for other municipalities to voice their concern over the freedom of information restrictions from Bill 97.
Okay. So we had a mover and a seconder. Again, like I said, we're using the same one. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 12-4, I think was polled by 2 people. Who polled it here? Councillor DeRosa, I know that Councillor Sentence as well. Thorold nonprofit house parking lot request. You can go first, Councillor DeRosa.
Yeah, I just, through you, Mr. Mayor, the letter from Mr. Kenny's very brief, doesn't really give details. I have a hard time supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Sentence and then Councillor Dedivitis. Go ahead. Councillor Sentence.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is short on details, so I'll give you the details. We're just trying to get something there, and cost sharing. You know, as a group, we're looking to pay for most of this, to have at least have some agreement with the city at city land to put something in. What we're having trouble with is personal support workers, and they have nowhere to park, and we have more and more people that need help there. So there is, if anybody's tried to park there during the day, it's almost impossible. So the group isn't really looking for money. We're just looking for help, services, some type of lease agreement. And the bonus is that it's a Monday to Friday operation. So when we're having our Canada Day or our market or anything else at the city with the new splash pad going in, that this would also be able to be used by residents or by our city staff. So there's not much asked from it, just that it's something that's needed for the people there, and that we're looking to do it, but we need the city's help because it's their land. Thank you.
Councillor Dedivitis, go ahead.
Oh, I was just echoing what Ken Sentence just said, and especially with that splash pad coming there, there'd be a lot more traffic coming there, more parking spaces. And I'm in there quite a bit with Ken, and there's so many PSW workers coming there, and the demographic in that place, they're getting older and older. So we need more parking spaces. So this is a good big win and a big partnership with the city and the nonprofit.
So basically, it's not committing to money. It's asking for a report back to council, just so everybody's aware. Okay?
Exactly.
Go ahead, Councillor DeAnge.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the clarity there, but because it says cost sharing, but I've heard through Councillor Sentence, they're looking more for a lease agreement to utilize the land, similar to what they've used in front of the building, because that's city-owned land also. So if it's just looking at a lease agreement to work with them, we should be doing that. I don't have an issue with that. In a temporary time frame, I would work with Club Capri they have plenty of parking there to help facilitate this until some additional parking is put in place. I'm sure if you work with the club, they would say to park people there, because usually during the day, that parking lot's never full to the capacity. So I'm sure groups can work together. If someone at nonprofit needs a contact, I could provide them one for Club Capri, and they could work towards at least giving them some temporary spots as they try to solve this issue. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. The benefits renewal wasn't pulled. We had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. DF 14-2026 budget overrun and reallocations. Who pulled that one? Go ahead, Councillor Thorold.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it's going to be a yearly annual thing. We have overruns of over $1 million. It's frustrating for taxpayers. So all I'm asking, I'm not going to challenge any of
I can't hear him. Is his mic on?
Sorry, thank you.
Okay.
So I'm frustrated, I was saying, Councillor Sentence, because every year we're going above $1 million in overruns. I'm not a supporter of overruns. I'm not going to question any that are listed there, but what I'm asking is staff could provide a report showing the project's total cost overrun as a percentage of the original approved budget, along with a detailed explanation and justification for the increase in costs. And I can give you that in writing if they want it, but I think something's got to give here. I know projections are hard to make, especially with inflation, but I think we have to be accountable to taxpayers, and this is one way if staff could provide this report, and I've got it in writing. I could send it to staff or I could send it to the clerk.
Well, you can, you want to deal with that now?
I could do it in a notice of motion as well, if you like.
I think one thing, though, and I'm going to bring this up, if you want to look at budget overruns, you should also be looking at all the stuff that comes in under budget, too, so that you can have a wholesome report and say, well, we saved $2 million and we were $1 million budget overrun, but we're cash positive $1 million. You have to look holistically at everything.
Do we get that, Mr. Mayor, that information?
No, we don't.
Well, maybe we should.
I'm just telling you, if you're going to look at budget overruns, you need to look at areas where we come in under budget. You can include that in your motion.
Mr. Mayor, think of your family. Okay, coming in under budget's a good thing. Going over budget's not a good thing.
No.
And I think of our city as our family.
I agree, but I think you have to look at it holistically. That's all I'm saying.
So could I change it then to notice of motion?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's there. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 12-7, there's no one that pulled that. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 12-8, Canada Game Park financials. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I took a look at the Canada Games financials, and I know staff isn't directly related to these presentation of these statements. It's for information for us. But if I got a couple questions here, I don't expect an answer right now, but if it could be followed up upon, it would be great. When I'm looking at their revenue statement, they had a couple expenses. Legends incentive fee was $116,000. There was no budget for that, so that sort of came out of nowhere. Just if I could get some clarity on what that is. And the second one was property taxes. In 2024, property taxes were $98,000. In 2025, they were $42,000. This is an expense for the Canada Summer Games Park, so I just like to have an explanation of why taxes dropped by $50,000. Again, I don't need an answer right now.
No, it can, that's
okay.
good.
And then that's the two items I saw on the financial statements. The other one is just the Canada Games budget to actual. This is the city component that's prepared here. I appreciate finance doing this, and I appreciate the work being done to reduce the unsold ice compared to the budget. there was a reduction, well, a variance under budget of $48,000. That's one of those ones you were just talking about, Mr. Mayor.
And
So,
that was something that's come up in council, and we've asked them to keep working hard.
well, that's why I'm highlighting this.
Yeah,
It's,
that's right.
I've asked that, now I'm highlighting that it's actually, what's being done is working, because it's being reduced below budget. And same with the subsidy. The subsidy was also down by $16,000. So those are positive, because it net variance was a positive $67,000 at the end of the day, which is important when we're spending almost over $1 million for the Canada Parks facility. Any reductions in those costs are beneficial. And on the flip side, any usage of the unused ice for community use, at least if we're going to pay for it, let's utilize it. So it seems to be being run a little bit more efficiently on that component. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. The last one, no one polled, DS 38-2026. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now we move into items for consideration. Up first, final plan of condominium approval, DS 35-2026, and the condominium approval is DO 701-2023, and the authority to sign site plan agreement D 1103-2026, and condominium agreement 2248 Center Street. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? I got Councillor O'Hare and Councillor DeRose. It's on the screen. Is there any comments, questions? It's open for discussion. Councillor Dedivitis, are you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you to staff. It's been almost 3 years. He's been very patient, and it took a long time coming. We went through a lot of planners, and I'm excited to see this going through. He's a very big supporter in our community, Mr. Lally, so this is a great story.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. DS, let me make sure I don't miss it. DS 37-2026 zoning bylaw amendment, Rolling Meadows phases 17 and 19 to 22, D1402-2026. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for that? I got Councillor O'Hare and Councillor Longo. It's on the screen. Is there any discussion, questions of staff? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 13-4, PWCS Tender Award, Schmoen Parkway Pedestrian Crossover, PXO 2026 RFT COT 08. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor DeRose, and I got, let me see if someone online, I got Councillor Decker. Okay, that's on the screen and it's open. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support the goal of improving pedestrian safety. Ensuring that people can safely cross Schmoen Parkway is important, and I recognize the need for appropriate infrastructure in high-traffic areas. However, I can't support this recommendation in its current form because I don't believe Thorold taxpayers should be responsible for covering the majority of a cost overrun for infrastructure that primarily serves a private student housing development in the adjacent university community. The report clearly states that installation of this pedestrian crossover was requested by the developer of the adjacent student housing. While the developer has contributed $20,000, the total project cost has now increased to $100,000, leaving the city to fund the remaining $80,000, including an additional $10,000 from the Capital Asset Transportation Reserve. Given that this crossing predominantly benefits Brock University students and the surrounding student residences, I believe there should be greater financial participation from those who directly benefit. Brock University, together with the developer, should be asked to contribute additional funding before the city commits more taxpayer dollars to this project. At a time when municipalities face increasing infrastructure costs and limited financial resources, Council has a responsibility to ensure that public funds are allocated fairly and that projects serving a specific institution or private development receive appropriate support from those partners. For these reasons, I cannot support the recommendation as presented. I would support I would instead support deferring the project long enough to pursue additional financial contributions from Brock University and the developer so that the cost burden on Thorold taxpayers is reduced. Thank you.
Does anyone from staff want to comment on that? Go ahead, Sean. I think you're asked for the developer, but it's got nothing to do with Brock. It's not for them. It's the developer that's asked for. It's the developer that's asked for.
I totally understand, but it's to their benefit.
Well,
it's their students, Mr. Mayor.
Anyway.
It's not traditional Thorold residents. Sorry.
Anyway, go ahead, Sean.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly follow up with the developer and or Brock University to see if they'll up their contribution.
So does someone want to defer this report, or do you want to keep talking on it? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
I just want a few comments, and someone could defer it after
Okay,
me,
go
just
ahead.
so that.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's.
Well, it's just that I want to make sure we come back with the right project here, so that's the comments here. I was going to ask is, can development charges cover more of the cost of this project?
Question.
Is this a growth-related project where we can cover more costs?
I don't know, Maria, can you?
Through Mr. Mayor, we'd have to look at the background study. I'm sorry, I don't know that we've got certainly there would be a portion that would be benefit to existing. So, you know, if the report is going to be deferred, that's something we can look at as well.
And I think that's good to get those kind of answers.
Well, it's another reason to defer it, so it gives finance some time to look
yeah.
at that. Because the other thing, I don't know if it is, but is it bonusing because we're putting it right in front of one developer's property, and they're the one that requested it? Is it bonusing in that? So again, I don't need an answer now, but
No, but it can be all part of the question.
yeah. The other thing too is like it was a budget of $70,000, but it's coming in at $100,000. So are we asking for a Cadillac, or are we just asking for something to have safe measures of crossing the roads? There's just different levels of crossing walks. I don't know the extent of how many people cross there. In the report, if it could come back with a picture and what we're going to be getting for the $100,000, it might make a little bit more sense for council to have that information. So just a couple additional items in the report that I hope gets deferred.
Okay. Did you want to make any further comments, Sean?
The only comment I have about the design is the design was done by the region of Niagara. They design all pedestrian crossovers, and so they did it to their standard.
Sorry, I didn't say that loud enough. That explains
but
the
I
cost.
can tell you that one thing I do know, that development that's on the west side, you know, the 3 units that they put up is eventually going to be 6 units. So there's going to be another 3 like the 3 you see. And part of that development was a walkway to go, there was going to be a walkthrough to go out to Merrittville Highway, you know, the path there. But that hasn't happened because they haven't finished that development. So anyway. Anybody, I need to know if someone wants to defer it, I need a deferral motion. Are you deferring it? Well, then speak on it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, of course, I'm very concerned about student pedestrian safety, whether it's students or otherwise. I'm certainly not going to refuse any safety standards within the city of Thorold simply because they might be a student outside of the city. That's like prejudging someone who happens to work outside the city. So when we look at safety, we look at safety within the city, and this, as it falls, is within the city. So we should definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Ditavitis.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Hare. And this is a company who spends hundreds and hundreds of thousands in property tax. And those students spend money on Thorold, in Thorold. And that land is in Thorold, and there's businesses in that property too that goes to Thorold. So I don't want to put safety on the back burner for a couple of dollars.
Thank you. Councillor Longo.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to defer this report.
I was wondering if somebody was going to
I want to let everybody speak.
You
sure.
want to defer it?
Yeah, so some of these outstanding questions
No,
can
no,
be
and that's a
answered by
good
staff.
point. Can I get a seconder for that? Is there a seconder? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Yeah, so we got a mover and a seconder, there's no debate, it's defer it, so the report can come back with some of the answers to some of the questions that we're at. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, there's some good questions that we can get answers that would be, and find out about the DCs if there's, opportunities there. I don't know. It's fine. We'll find out all that stuff. Okay, so that's deferred. 13.5, Thorold Community Market Funding. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor DeRose, and I got Councillor Sentence. Jeff's here to answer any questions, and I also see Jacob's here, and there's the request. And the request is to increase the budget by 10,000. And then we're open, the floor is open for questions and discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Dora. Yeah?
Yeah, can I just make a statement, Mr. Mayor, comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one thing where you can't see ahead of time. It's been a success, so I'll support this. So, you know me, I don't like to support overruns. I will support this.
Thank you. And I've got Councillor Sentence up next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll support this 100%. It was the number one and only complaint I heard at our events was for seniors having to go up and down the hill or people with mobility issues having to go around. It's hot out. So this is a no-brainer for me. So thank you.
And we're hoping to pack that park tomorrow night, right? Go ahead, Councillor Didavitis, and then Councillor Decker. Go ahead, Councillor Didavitis.
Well, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. We will fill that park tomorrow night. And this is a great problem to have. What a success story. We're dealing with the best market in Niagara now. It's growing and growing, and this is really a tremendous breakthrough, hitting this crowd mark, 2,000, 2,500, 1,500 on a steady basis. So I'm going to support this 100%, and what a problem to have that you have to spend money because you're growing so much.
Thank you. And Councillor Decker.
Thank you. To you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Jacob for bringing this forward. I know that our market is growing and it's been extremely successful. And that is the only complaint that we've had, is that we do need additional washrooms in the park, which is a great thing. So I will support this 100%.
Along with the security. Did you want to add anything, Jacob? Okay. I give you your 1 minute limelight. No, I think that this is important, and then now that we know the success of the market, we can make sure that be included in the budget in next year. But also opportunities as sponsors like success. So I think there would be opportunities there to get future to grow our funding, our sponsor side. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll be supporting this, not a problem, but if it becomes a perpetual problem, that's something we may want to look at, some permanent washrooms, maybe on the lower part. It is cumbersome moving up that hill. And the other issue with the bathrooms up top is they were like 110 degrees in there on the warm days. There's not a good ventilation system in there, so maybe that could be looked at too in the future to see how we can accommodate that. That could be another reason why some people didn't use the washrooms behind the band shell.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Are there any notices of motion? Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the August meeting, I will bring a motion regarding the potential of enhancing and expanding transit services in Thorold. And I will have a representative here from Niagara Regional Transit to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. That's very important. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, a notice of motion in regards to the use of drones in public spaces. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor DeAngelo.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it's not necessarily a notice of motion, but I just want to get some clarity on how we can do this. There's been some additional road safety items that are coming forward. So I'd like to have another road safety committee meeting as opposed to bringing notice of motion
No,
items.
that's a good point. Is that doable? Can you arrange, can we get that, can we get that done?
Yes, if, through you, Mr. Mayor, if Councillor D'Angelo wanted to reach out to me and my department about what items, and engineering as well, what items will require a meeting, that could be doable.
Okay, the reason I bring it up, because Councillor Sentence also approached me with another traffic issue, so.
No, but it's something if we can address without a notice of motion and get it moving, eh?
Yeah, if we could do that, that'd be great, and I can give you the agenda items that have been brought forward to me, and I could work with the clerk's department of setting up a time.
That's
That's
good.
convenient for the members. And then I
Okay.
have a secondary one. It's just really a staff report I'm looking for, so it's not really a notice of motion, but I just want to, like, if you want to put it as a notice of motion, but it's a staff report. What I wanted to see, if we could have a report coming back regarding the storm that we just happened to be victims of. So I'd like to see a staff report come back with potentially what we can do to mitigate some of the damages through a tree assessment, the rehabilitation or the planting of new trees. We'll need to know that. The costs associated with that. Is there any way of getting provincial or federal funding for
Well, that's a good thing. We
we
need to find out if we're eligible for that. I'll leave that with Manoj as a staff direction.
That's
and he
good.
can put it together, because I think that would be a good wrap-up.
Yeah, that's the word I was trying to find out, a wrap-up of what occurred. So that would be great
look
if we
for
could put that
funding.
into a staff report.
There
And
might be
if
some
councillors have any other things they want to see in the report, please reach out to our CEO.
Councillor Longo?
Well, since you've opened the door, could I add to that report, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to know, like, I understand we have kind of disasters like that in the area. If it's a fire disaster or so on, we have mutual aid. I would just like to know in that report if there was any help from the Niagara region during that storm to the city of Thorold. Through Public Works, okay?
Yeah.
Not through any other service, but the Public Work Department at the Niagara region, I'm going on here, is much bigger than the Public Work Department in the city of Thorold. And I just think it's a shame if there was no aid brought to Thorold or any other community that may need it in circumstances like that. So if that could be looked at, and if we can find out if there's such a thing as mutual aid.
Yeah, well, we'll do a comprehensive overview. What?
Yeah, I just want to add. Through Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add what Councillor Longo's requesting, and I think it's a simple ask due to the fact that 49% of our taxes go to the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we're gonna get that, and we'll get a report and a wrap-up. So that takes care of that. And the motion was dealt with already. Councillor DeRosa's motion after the delegation. Statement by councillors. Councillor Sentence, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know you touched on it earlier, but I would like to thank Steve Santo and his Public Works crew for their incredible work during this storm and the cleanup that they did, and to Community Services, Dave and Scott, for their work, and to Terry Dixon and his crew for their work on everything and how everybody collaborated. So I've heard nothing but kudos out there and patience from people when you get a storm like that. So I just want to thank everyone. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you, Councillor Sentence. Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Same token. I won't repeat everything, but the city staff did a great job, all our employees. But the other thing I want to highlight was the residents. They showed patience through this because some of them had lost power for over 24 hours, and they were helping each other clean up. When you visited the neighborhoods of, the streets there, they were all working together, and there was other residents that didn't have any damage done to theirs, were reaching out for anyone that needed food, water. So that's why I love Thorold. It's a great community. We get behind each other when something happens, and we all work together. This is a prime example of working together to make sure that we all take care of each other through a crisis, and a job well done. So I just wanted to highlight those components.
Okay. Okay.
I think I'm up for a couple more. The other one was the Canada Day event, or that whole 3-day event. Again, I want to thank Jacob. He did a fabulous job. You know someone's dedicated and working hard when it's 11 o'clock on Canada Day and he's still trying to make sure things are wrapped up. That's 11 p.m. This is after the fireworks. This is after everyone's gone. There's like 10 people left in the park cleaning up, even the city staff. And he was there right to the end. So I really appreciate that. It reminisces of when we started this 20 years ago in 2006. Terry Down, Jeanette DeRose, and even Nick DeLomo. We were all there till the wee hours, cleaning up and doing stuff. And back then, we only had one barbecue, a couple vendors, and a little bit of entertainment. It's grown immensely, and it's continually growing what Jacob's doing. So it's great to see, and it's providing opportunities for the local organizations to raise funds through the beer tent and other ways. So it's just not about bringing people to our community. It's also giving an opportunity for the nonprofits and our sports groups to make a bit of money to subsidize the cost for our residents that play. So all in all, it was fabulous. No complaints whatsoever, except for the little rainstorm. So Jacob, you got to fix that next year. No rain for a little bit.
We haven't.
But besides that, everything was great.
We've hit rain almost every year, eh? But not for the whole day. The year before we lost a band. This time we lost a band, but it was a day. But it was even the heat. But the people came out and the people supported it, so that's good. Okay.
And then I just have one more, and I cut this so people don't see, but I'm big on making sure we don't have unauthorized signs on public property. In this company, and I know in our bylaw department's been doing a great job. They've been hauling in 200-300 signs. But this one particular company keeps putting signs out there. They're putting them on poles, putting people at risk. I'm just so disappointed, and I just hope that people look at people that are not following the rules and don't support those companies. They're not local. They're making a mess in our community because the signs get blown all over the place. They're left on poles. They're falling off. But I'm not criticizing our bylaw department at all. They're picking them up. As quickly as they pick them up, they put them back out there. But there's one particular company that
they should be dealt with under the bylaws.
Yeah. But I appreciate that. And then the other thing is, it's important for our local businesses that others don't get unfair advantages of putting stuff on public property. So it's great that our bylaw's out there. And the other thing too is, I know we have an election coming up, and in the past, some councillors took advantage of that and put them on public property. So any signs need to stay off public property. Read the sign bylaw and sign, and when you sign it, understand it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move into closed session. Before I ask for a mover and a seconder to go into closed session, I would like to remind you your obligations respecting closed session. Those who are participating in the closed session must ensure that no other person is in a location from which they are taking part in a meeting, or make appropriate arrangements so that any other persons cannot see or hear any of the confidential deliberations taking place. If this is not possible, you must withdraw from the meeting until it has reconvened in open session. Council staff and everyone present during the closed session have an obligation to ensure that what is discussed in closed session is kept confidential. We'll put that up on the screen now so you'll know why we're going into closed session, and I'll ask the clerk to read it.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor. The motion is that council do now move into closed session to receive confidential information respecting proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board under section 239 2C of the Municipal Act, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board under section 239 2K of the Municipal Act, offer respecting Kiefer Mansion.
Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor DeRose and Councillor O'Hare to go into closed session for that reason. All those in favor?